CBS News conducted a national overnight poll of Republicans and independents to gauge their reaction to the debate. Respondents thought Marco Rubio was the winner with 32%. Donald Trump was in second with 24%. John Kasich came in third with 19% support. Ted Cruz behind him at 12%. Ben Carson at 8% and Jeb Bush at 5%. And joining us this morning is the winner of that debate, at least according to our poll, Florida Senator Marco Rubio. What was it like on the stage for you? It seemed pretty raucous.
What a great poll.
Yeah.
It was an interesting debate. You know, I think it's the smallest stage we've had now with 6 people in the race, and so there's more time for everyone to speak. And it happened on the night that Justice Scalia left us and passed away, and so I thought that added some somber seriousness to the beginning of the debate. And then you get into some of the differences. So it was when Donald and Jeb were going at it a little bit, and Jeb and Donald and Ted a little bit as well. It was a little different from the other debates, I think, and the crowd was pretty involved too.
Yeah, differences. You called Senator Cruz a liar.
Well, he's lying. You know, obviously, in the last couple weeks, he has really exhibited this very troubling tendency to say things that just aren't true. I mean, just making things up. I mean, just this week alone, he had to pull an ad off the air because it didn't tell the truth about my position on sanctuary cities. He's lied about my position on marriage. He's lied about Planned Parenthood and my position on that. And he's not being honest about his previous position on immigration. He tries to portray himself as some sort of purist, but his record is something very different. And so these things are being exposed now in a campaign, and it's really a troubling trend.
What do you think that means in terms of the presidency, though?
I think it means someone who's willing to say or do anything to win an election, even if it's not true. And that, I think it's going to trouble people deeply. We all want to win, but you can't just make things up. And if you have a campaign that's willing to do things like what he did to Ben Carson in Iowa, and what he apparently is doing here now, according to Donald Trump with robocalls, I don't know about that, but Donald mentioned that. I think it speaks to, you know, how you conduct yourself, especially in high intensity situations. So I think it's very troubling, and I hope he'll stop doing it.
You were here on the debate, and Chris Christie wasn't. You guys had quite an exchange in New Hampshire, but what is the fact that you survived to continue and he didn't? What does that mean? Well,
you know, I don't think, I mean, ultimately the debate wasn't the reason why Chris is not in the race now. He'll have to answer that. I like Chris Christie, and I think he has a future in public service beyond being governor of New Jersey. I don't think we've heard the last of his service. It was a very unusual year, and any other year Chris Christie would have been a front runner. But this year we had all these people running, and it just worked out the way it did. I wish him the best.
What do you think of John Kasich's point last night that the bickering and the back and forth is going to help Hillary Clinton in the end?
Well, I think ultimately that's true. I mean, but they had a pretty intense debate the other night between her and Bernie Sanders as well. And let's not forget that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton said some really horrible things about each other during that campaign, and he ended up winning and she ended up working for him. But I would prefer the debates be all about policy. If you watch, I never launched these attacks, but if I'm attacked, I need to respond. I think that was the mistake I made a week ago when I didn't. I should have responded about Chris's record, and instead I pivoted to the issues, and you get pummeled in the media for that. So I don't like it, but unfortunately sometimes you have to do it because people are saying things that just aren't true.
I want to ask you about the replacement to Justice Scalia. What's going to happen there, do you think? The president said he's going to nominate someone.
He can nominate someone. The Senate's not moving forward on it until after the election. Senator McConnell, the majority leader, has already made that clear, and I agree with that. There's been a precedent established over 80 years that in the last year, especially in the last 11 months, you do not have a lame duck president make a lifetime appointment to the highest court on the land, in the land. So we're going to have an election in November. This vacancy is going to be an issue in this election. The voters are going to get to weigh in, and then they'll choose a new president. And then that new president, which I expect will be me, will then be able to nominate someone and work with the Senate to confirm them.
Don't the voters weigh in when they pick the president in the first place, and then his powers extend until the last day? If there were an emergency, you'd still expect the president to participate.
But this is a lifetime appointment. This is not a law you can reverse. This is not a policy you can undo. Once you name someone to the Supreme Court, they're going to be there until they die or leave, and that's a very serious thing. And so the president can decide whatever he wants, but I'm just telling you, the Senate's not moving forward on it until we have a new president, and I agree with that.
And if you were president, would you have that kind of last year moratorium on a...
I would understand, yeah, I would. And in fact, it's not just for the Supreme Court. There's a practice that in the last 8 months of a presidency or 9, you stop doing appellate courts as well. And I would respect that practice.
If you had if you were president, you had a nominee to put forward, would there be any kind of litmus test? I asked Governor Bush about this last night because conservatives have said, we want to make sure we have justices who are really conservative on the bench.
Well, it's not about your views on the issues. It's very simple. Does this person that we are nominating have a consistent and proven record of interpreting the Constitution as initially meant? What did the society that wrote those words mean those words? What did those words mean to that society at the time in which those words were written in the Constitution? That's what I want out of a judge, out of a justice that looks at legislation and says, what was the meaning behind this legislation when it was passed by Congress? If you don't like the meaning, then there's a process. The Constitution provides a process to change the Constitution. It's called Article 5, and it gives you a process for changing the Constitution. But I'm looking for people that are going to look at the Constitution and apply it and interpret it based on the original meaning of the words in that document.
Let's talk about politics a little bit. You did well in Iowa, not less well in New Hampshire. How well do you have to do in South Carolina, and when do you have to put a state in the win column?
Well, I think we're going to get into the weeds here on politics early on, but in these early states, it's all proportional. So whether if you look at what happened in
delegate,
so you look at what happened in New Hampshire. I finished in 5th, but I had the same number of delegates as the person who finished in 4th and in 3rd. Same in Iowa. I had only one less delegate than the person who finished in 1st. So in these proportional states, we just want to continue to pick up delegates, and we want to do consistently well. Once we get into the winner-take-all states, now the stakes become much higher. And so for us, I think it's continuing to do well in these early states, getting ourselves in a strong delegate position, and then really give ourselves the opportunity when the race is narrowed to do real well once it's a winner-take-all.
Is it a 1-2 process? In other words, basically best Governor Bush and Governor Kasich so that you can be the alternative, then take on Donald Trump?
Yeah, except that if you look at it, one of the reasons why I'm the candidate that gets attacked by everyone in this race, I mean, I've been attacked by Ted Cruz, I've been attacked by Chris Christie, I've been attacked by Jeb Bush. I get attacked by everybody because I believe our message is one that appeals to voters across the Republican Party. And so I think that's why ultimately I am the only one left in this race that can bring this party together quickly and then grow the conservative movement. So I've never viewed myself in a one-on-one competition with anyone on that debate stage last night. I have a message that I believe appeals to the voters supporting every one of these candidates.
All right, Senator Marco Rubio, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in a minute.